call this meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, everybody. I just wanted to say that tonight masks are optional. We're all spread out, so everybody who feels comfortable can remove their mask. And I will call the roll. Jana Duckett.
Present.
Timothy West.
Present.
Kelly Hoover. Present. Joe Petrosky.
Here.
Also here. And Amelie Grew. Here. And Josh DeAndaway. Any adjustments to the agenda?
There are no adjustments this evening.
All right, and I just want to remind anybody that might be on Zoom that you can put your comments in the chat at any time, and when it's public comment time, we will be happy to read them and address them. Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the Winthrop School Committee meeting of May 19, 2021.
So moved.
Second. With, I'm sorry, as written or with corrections? First and second, any discussion? All those in favor? Vote passes unanimously. Reports. Mr. Superintendent.
First of all, I just want to make sure I forwarded a meeting notice, save the date thing from the MSBA, thinking that you might have to sign up. If you didn't get it, then I have a copy here. You're welcome to see it. If you haven't had a chance to check your email, you may want to, but basically it's a regional Kennebec Valley School Board committee members. I don't know if it's open to student reps or not, but if you're interested, I can certainly forward you the, you want it? Okay, so I will forward it on to you. Anyway, so haven't been to one, and I'm not even honestly sure, as I'm looking at it, it does say superintendents that I don't know if I'm invited or if I was just supposed to distribute, so I'll go on. If they kick me off, they kick me off. So that's that. I did want to make sure that you all saw the notice of the open house for our retirees. It's an open house from 4 to 7 at Vanderbrew's next Wednesday for our 5 retirees. And there's a chance that they will all attend. A chance. So we'll see. And I also want to make sure that you all received, you should have received today, an updated policy KF. We had left something off. If you had a chance to see it, because I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Because we do have a second reading tonight, so I want to make sure that it is accurate. So you should have that. I said most of my stuff is in my report. I don't have a great deal to add. We have a lengthy agenda, so I'll try not to drone on too long. But we do have the meeting to vote the budget on Monday night, June 7th. I invite you all to join via Zoom. And last I knew it was just being done through Zoom. So they are hoping to borrow our owl. So one of our owls will fly that way.
Is that at 7, Jim?
It is at 7, yep. I thought there are other meetings where it's at budget meetings where it's 6, but this is at 7. So I think that is my report as well. Save some of this other stuff. It does say, I double checked with them, June 7th via Zoom. That's my report. And let's see, I gave you the projections, the end of the year projections. Next meeting, I'm not going to spend much time with this. Next meeting, we will have to make adjustments. As you know, none of the 11 articles, individual articles, can be overspent. And there are a number, but we have a pretty good cushion. I did get some good news in discussing with the town manager and Bernice Boyce, who's going to be sort of serving as business manager of both. I was feeling a little bit of pressure about trying to wrap up what we want to do for a reserve account. I'm hoping to establish 2 reserve accounts with undesignated money that will be left over, and I hate to say left over, that sounds, it's undesignated money that we will carry forward. And I was feeling a lot of pressure because in other places where I've been, I've always had to try to do that before the end of the fiscal year. And Bernice was really clear, and it's going to be really nice to have her background as an auditor, former auditor, helping us. And she just said, and she checked with our current auditors, RPO, to make sure that she wasn't misspeaking, that we don't need to do that right away. In fact, what she recommends we not do that, because we should wait for all of the bills that are attributable to FY21 to be paid, and then we'll have an accurate amount, which makes perfect sense. When I was trying to figure out why I felt pressure in the other places where I've been, it sort of hit me that in both places where I was superintendent for any length of time before, they did their audits in July. So it made sense that we had to try to wrap it up and make it as neatly wrapped up as possible. Here we won't see the auditors again until probably October. So it just makes sense to make it be as accurate as possible. So if you're wondering, about those reserve accounts and why I haven't brought it to you until later, maybe August, that's why. So that was nice. So I do have to say that continuing to look at the articles, we're in really outstanding shape, and I think the school committee can pat themselves on the back. Those of you who were here at the beginning of the year by being very, very conservative about the possibility of a curtailment that never happened. But it did help. I mean, I did end up setting aside nearly $350,000, which we never spent because we had set it aside, and so we didn't spend it if we didn't need to. And we got pretty fortunate with the timing of the CRF and then subsequently ESSER funds. Probably Megan's bane of your existence now, right? So anyway, I sent out, or I should have, it's included in your packet, a letter from the DOE. It basically says my response to them, my management letter to them was accepted. So we're all set as far as that's concerned. And then we have the appointment of Stephen Sculias, Alternative Ed Tech 3. If that name sounds familiar, he was one of our COVID techs this year. I'm really excited to have him be joining us full-time moving forward. And then sadly, 3 resignations. Takia Cox, Adult Ed Administrative Assistant. Takia's did a great job this year, before this year, but I got to know her this year. So she stepped up into this position this year, moving on to a bigger place. Rebecca Beloya is resigning, and Samantha Grandel, Special Ed Tech 3, is also resigning. So that's it for my report, unless you have questions for me.
Any questions?
I just have one question. How are we doing regarding, do we have open positions or?
We do. Yeah, there's a number on here, but we're reviewing them on a regular basis and moving people around. But we still have. That would be nice if I considered to say we don't have any, but we do. And
What percentage of the staff needs to be filled?
what percentage of the staff? I don't know. Maybe a half a dozen positions.
Okay, so it's not unmanageable, it's just
No.
nice to have it done.
Yeah, it would be nice to have it done. Yeah. We have a couple, you'll see a person that's on the, tonight, a position at high school, like last time at the high school, is still not committed. Was comfortable with us bringing the name forward, which we're doing tonight, and hopefully, I was hoping I would know before tonight. But we'll see.
I do just have a question, and I had it, I was reminded of it when I took my son from daycare today. Do we have any resolution or update on the computer discussion that we were having right now today?
You'll have to tell me more.
With access, broad access.
Oh, yeah. Actually, Mike, unfortunately, is not here. He was going to do some research on that, and he he thought he could find a solution, a resolution, I should say. It seems to be most, it's come up a couple times at the grade school this year. First time we blocked a particular thing, and so I did ask him to look into, right now we operate as a system under one firewall, so that makes it hard because what's appropriate for middle school, high school may not necessarily be appropriate for grade school, and that's where the crux of the issue is. So we had a pretty lengthy conversation at our last administrative team meeting, and Mr. Delisle left there that night having some sense of, I just said, kind of check it what other schools are doing, and I think we probably need to have multiple firewalls.
Yeah. One of the things I was wondering was, could the younger grade teachers, if they needed to use, for example, YouTube for their instruction, could they share just a clip on their own page, classroom page, instead of having full access?
Yeah, I think those are the types of things we're looking at.
All right.
I'll second on that. Is there a way to have a block at home?
That would block at home.
Yeah, so like if they...
It depends what you have available for service at home.
No, but I mean, when they bring the laptops home, is there a way we could, trying to figure that out in my house?
Oh,
Block, have restrictions for the kids. Because when they bring those laptops home, it's, they're open.
yeah, that seems to be where a lot of the things are occurring, so I think that's part of the same question.
I know in my district, having had these from the start, MLTI first put them out, when they're at home, it's a parent's responsibility. And when they're at school, part of the issue is because we run through the University of Maine system, and they won't, it's First Amendment rights, they won't block sites because of that. So what our district does is when they know that kids are accessing sites that they're not supposed to, we can go in and block them, but until we know about them, we can't do it. And it's unfortunate, and kids are constantly getting around it. And so just trying, that's why, internet safety and using appropriately and, things like that is what's so important. But it does, when it's home, it's wide open unless parents put controls on their internet service, so, yeah.
And it's, I don't know what the resolution is going to be, but it's scarier and scarier every day how much younger and sophisticated our kids are getting.
Yeah.
That kids are 5, 6, 7, 8 years old can do things that, it's like, you shouldn't be smart enough to do that, but they are.
Well, I think me being the youngest adult here, possibly, anyway, I didn't have access to internet till high school.
Right.
And these kids have never lived a day of their life without it.
That's right. They're definitely natives,
Yeah.
and I'm not. Neither is Joe.
That's true. I was just thinking, I was old when I got my internet.
I honestly remember when I was teaching, and it was probably 7 or 8 years into my teaching career, and I had an Apple II. I thought I was like, it. And then I went up to I got a GS, and it was like, it's like having an antique car, whatever. So yeah, it's a great question, and it's going to go on and on until we figure it out. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, for my chair report, I do want to let everybody know that this is going to be our last Zoom meeting tonight. After this, we'll just be in person.
Did you say that again?
Last Zoom meeting. Sue's raising the roof. As far as for our committee, the superintendent goals that we've been working on, they are in the works, and when we get them complete, I will give you one last rundown with them, and then Jan and I and the superintendent will meet to go over them. Okay. You will find on your desks a yearbook. That is from the yearbook staff and advisors to each committee member and to the superintendent as a thank you for all of your support. That is yours to keep and take home.
Thank you.
And it's very excellent.
It
And
is.
we're in here.
Yes, and we're in here.
We're in.
Famous.
Yeah, we are in here. Those little
Not
Nice
as
to see
famous as
that.
Longley and Josh, but almost.
What page is that?
I don't know, but we are in there.
Great, great.
All right, and then the last thing, I received a really beautiful letter from one of our teachers, and I did get her permission. I'd like to read it to you. It really kind of encompasses everything our entire community has done this past year. She really hit the nail on the head, just pointing out how everybody's contributed to the success of our school year. Dear school committee members and Jim Hodge, I started writing this letter to thank you all at several different times this year, but I found that each time I delayed, there was more to be grateful for. After 27 years in education, I can say without hesitation that this year was the most difficult. However, I can also say that I've never felt more valued and appreciated by the administration, the school committee, including Kristen Shumway and Ginny Geyer, my colleagues, students, parents, and the community. Many of us began this year with countless concerns about how we could do what was being asked of us and how we could possibly do it well. The answer for me was that we needed our voices to be heard. You heard us. You heard us when we said we needed remote teachers because without them, our workload was too great. You heard us when we said we needed time because without Wednesdays to plan and prepare, there wouldn't have been enough time in the week to do what needed to be done. You heard us when we said that offering a live streaming platform was a concern for many and that it wasn't appropriate for all, and you made live streaming a choice. You heard us when we explained that working from home on Wednesdays was sometimes necessary due to childcare and other concerns, and you gave everyone the option of picking some days to work from home. You also made other decisions that benefited us, like when the money was allocated for staff to purchase additional supplies and resources needed to teach through the pandemic. Then there was the most recent show of appreciation where you voted to give each staff member additional money to thank us for the extra hours that were spent making this year work. The additional money was a wonderful surprise, but it was the acknowledgement and appreciation of the extra time, effort, and struggle that this year required that was the real gift. I value the It Takes a Village approach, so I would also like to share my appreciation for the many other stakeholders that came together to make this year work. I am so grateful for the WEA, who went to bat for the staff and gave us extraordinary representation. They relayed our concerns, advocated, problem-solved, attended an extensive number of meetings on our behalf, and negotiated a new contract for teachers. I appreciate Jim Hodgkin, who supported us through every new challenge from the beginning of the year to the end. He was present and positive. He communicated regularly and was visible in the buildings. I'm grateful for the endless support from Karen Chris, who had the pulse of her students and staff. In her last year in education, she did more than just rise to the challenge. She listened, championed, planned, prepared, and pivoted on a daily basis. She put in the hard work every single day, including weekends and vacations. I appreciate my colleagues who are already working harder than ever, but always found the time to help a coworker with a technology issue, share a tip to make life easier, offer a sympathetic ear, or ease another's burden. I'm thankful for the Back to School Committee that worked tirelessly, starting back in the summer to get us safely back to school despite countless restrictions and ever-changing guidelines. I felt safe going back to school knowing the hard work and thought everyone put into our back to school plan. I'm grateful for our students who seem to have a new appreciation for in-person learning and their own education. I appreciate the parents that shared kind words and showed support despite their own challenges throughout the year. So many people in this community played a role in making this year as good as it could be, and I'm grateful that we were able to come together in such a time of stress and uncertainty. Excuse me. Being a member of the school committee can't always be a popular role, but I feel that the decisions, the time, the thought, and the efforts you have made this year to make things better for the students, the staff, and the community made a difference. Thank you all for listening and supporting us in an unprecedented way during an unprecedented time. I hope you all have a wonderful and relaxing summer break. You've earned it. Sincerely, Kate Levesque.
Thank you.
I just wanted to share that with everybody because I really loved how she hit on how everybody in the whole community worked together. The kids were great. They follow the rules. Teachers were tireless in their effort, and everybody has come together. The parents, they were great, being supportive, especially in the Wednesdays, I thought. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody too, and thank you to Kate for sharing that heartfelt letter.
I just want to add one other thing. I try to send out a lot of emails and notes and stuff, and a lot of those, and there's a lot of commonalities between what I wrote and what she wrote. But I think the thing that really stuck out to me or struck me was the piece about the students, and the students have been amazing this year, both in returning to school and I would say to them, remind everybody why we do the jobs that we do. And the little ones, they like, I don't know if this will happen and whatever, but they just never lost energy. They were just say, when you're feeling a little, whatever you're feeling, just the energy's in your room, find the energy there. And people would say, yeah, it really is. And what she said in that is so true. The middle school students and the high school students were absolutely amazing this year in terms of doing exactly what you just said. I spent most of my career working with middle school students, and then middle schoolers who were dying to come back to school and be excited about being in school was amazing. And at the high school, I heard any number of times from Mr. Campbell and Mr. Stoneton and others and the staff about how well the students police themselves about, hey, don't mess this up for us. We don't want to be home. We want to be here. So wear your mask and do your job and do everything. And it's remarkable. I think the other things were, it's professional. It's what we do. But getting the kids to do their piece to make a huge difference is really big. And Kate obviously acknowledges that here, so that was great.
And if you've seen any of the videos or pictures from the middle school, they certainly had a lot of energy and fun there. And if you look in the yearbook, you'll see that the high schoolers did too. They still made it a great year for themselves. Committee reports, finance.
Sue and I have been busy. I'm not Sue, sorry, Kelly. 21. Kelly. We've done general warrants 21, 22, 22A, and 23, S&P 10, and payrolls 22, 22A, 22B, 23, 24, and 24A, and I am sending Colleen that email right now.
Thank you, ma'am. And thank you, Kelly.
And we were up to date last week, so.
Yep, excellent.
So by the way, I don't know that it necessarily needs to be shared here, but particularly for the finance committee, but we are going to have to skip a week for payroll in August. It'll be, typically it's 2 weeks. It'll be 3 weeks every 7 years or so. That has to happen to have things line up. So just in case any of you happen to hear that, I think it goes from the 13th, whatever that Friday is, in August, and then we don't get paid again until September 3rd. And Ida and I have sent out numerous emails to just remind the staff that that's going to happen. But in case any of you hear about it.
Okay.
Amelie and Josh, if you hear teachers complaining,
I think we get a free week.
you get a free week?
Well, I mean, teachers have to give us a free week.
Oh, yes, yeah, sure. No?
Just curious. I'm trying to figure it out.
So for the policy committee, we met 2 weeks ago, and for tonight, we'll have 1 policy for second reading and 3 policies for first reading later. And that's it for us. So negotiations?
So the WPA did ratify the contract, and we will be bringing it forward for ratification here tonight, and then we'll be wrapping that up. We have been asked to open negotiations on another group, but we have not fully pursued that yet to determine how we do that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anything for either curriculum or innovation construction? Okay. We'll move on to old business. I will entertain a motion to approve policy KF, community use of school facilities and grounds for second reading.
So moved.
Do we have any administration?
No.
No,
Okay.
next time.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? So, if you look in your packet, you'll see the most updated policy. And if you move to the second page under H, the Roger Gret Trail. We talked about this for first reading, and now it's just appearing in the policy. I think it's highlighted. Users of the trail are expected to follow the rules/guidelines posted at or on the trail.
And the next Monday, me, Ed Van Tassel, and Amber will play outside our meeting to go over rules. We have that grant for the nice metal signs. So we'll come up with rules, we'll bring them here.
Some, great. Any other discussion on policy KF? Okay, all those in favor? Vote passage unanimous. Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the Director of Facilities job description as recommended by the superintendent.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded, discussion.
Actually, I'm having a little delay processing problem here. I just want to say, we had a good conversation about it. One of the things I didn't say, and I really goes back to the renovation, new construction, and maintenance, is I think this is an essential position for us to have. So that's actually the next motion. But when we look at applying, when and if we're ever able to apply at the state level for a new building project, if we don't have a facilities director of some sort other than me, that's going to knock us down. And I've already said it's going to be a huge challenge for us because as much as people would like to have a new elementary school, our need for one, comparatively speaking, is not that high. It's going to be a long, tough road for Winthrop to get approved at the state level. And not having a facilities director will be one thing that they will knock us down in terms of points. Somebody to be responsible for all the assets that we have in this school system. Not to have somebody responsible for our assets is going to be bad for us.
I had a question on the job description.
Sure.
Let me see, it's under facilities management. Let me make sure I'm going to get this right. I see where it is. Qualifications number 8, experience in effectively writing requests for proposals.
What number is it?
Number 8 under qualifications.
Yep.
So, does this include, like bands, equipment?
Yes.
Things like that? So, how does that mesh with the policy for taking bids and all of that? Would this person be authorized to do this, or would this be kind of as an assistance to you?
Exactly.
In assistance to you?
Yep. But there may be some things that they would very specifically, but it wouldn't, like anything else, I wouldn't expect any of the administrators to just randomly go out and do stuff without checking the needs first.
Okay, great. Yep.
Just have a question. Shouldn't there be more emphasis on including in the facilities the fact that we have a number of non-building facilities being the athletic fields, trails, etc.?
Well, they're all considered facilities, so
Well, I was just thinking from the standpoint of, the reality is that we've got a massive problem with keeping up to date in our fields and the quality of our fields. And there are lots of things that we could be doing. And so I would hope that this person or this position would be the first line of making sure that we do what we can do, bring recommendations for.
I'd like to say that I 100% wrote this from scratch out of my own intelligence and stuff. That's not true. I took a look at a couple of other job descriptions for similar positions in other districts, and some of them have far. I guess I'm agreeing with you, but it's not spelled out any more than any others than it is in here. That's, you know, when we talk about our assets, it's not just our building assets. Our assets include our fields, includes our, we have a limited number of vehicles, but they still include our vehicles. And so that this person will essentially be responsible for making sure all of those things are kept up, including preventative maintenance.
Would it make you feel more comfortable if, for example, in the job goal, where it says to manage the maintenance and operation of the physical plant and grounds, including all sports fields?
It would, because I really think that in terms of where we would like to get over a period of time is to take and improve our facilities so that they're attractive to students and families, and to also, the other part of it is bringing in the community usage aspect of it too.
So my reluctance, I mean, ultimately, if you want to put that in as a school committee, you certainly can, but then I would say, should we then put in, under qualifications, number 3, experience in the operating and maintenance of buildings and grounds, including sports fields and parking lots? Because we have, I think we have a bigger issue with our parking lots. than we
I
do.
don't think they question when you put in our roads too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not gonna, I don't think we need to be all that specific. I think it's.
Just grounds to me, and Joe, I 100 support what you're saying, but I feel grounds sort of covers that. And that any property that Winthrop Public Schools owns is the responsibility of this person to maintain, to upkeep, to develop as needed. But
Is your concern that grounds kind of sounds like the land that the schools are on and not the other stuff?
Well, I think partially yes, because my concern is that if you don't have to look very far to see that other schools have invested much more into their grounds, fields, whatever you may want to call it. This is a competitive situation, whether we like it or not.
It is.
We want to attract people to live in this community, to provide the best education, and education is not just contained within the 4 sides of a classroom. And so I want to make sure that this is consistent with where I think we need to put some emphasis.
I think this would be the right first step then, don't you, to have somebody who would be in charge of this?
You know, ironically, when I first joined the board, we had someone. Part of the problem was, truthfully, is that I'm not sure that they were managed the correct way. There are certain things that were done well, but there are other things that did not get done. But at the same time, I look at, and I agree with the superintendent who addressed the fact that we're talking about a multi-million-dollar business here with a multi-million-dollar cost to what we have. And you never have good maintenance and upkeep unless you have somebody who's looking after it. And you can't keep spreading the superintendent too thin. Otherwise, you can be making sandwiches like I did for my kids. I just spread the, but the point is that, I really think this is a position that's needed. And if you were running a business, you'd have this person.
I think the reality, and I understand where the school committee was at when I was hired, and we it's one of the things I was asked to do is take a look at all these multiple hats that myself and people before me were asked to wear, and I have to think about, one of the things I have to do is try and build a team that's going to look at all of these issues, and I would like to think that one of the things that was in my favor is I I have a pretty substantial knowledge and background in this area, but there's a difference between, you know, so I don't think there's anything. I mean, I think any of the administrators out there, particularly people of K-12, you know, Megan and Sue would say that I'm not sort of like, well, that's I don't deal with that, that's Megan's thing, and I don't deal with that, that's Sue's thing, and we spend a lot of time talking, and I think I have good knowledge about those things, but there's a difference between having good knowledge and being in charge of it, and I think that's why this is so important.
So could we have something on here maybe that defines grounds to be any property that the school owns?
We could do it. You can do anything you want. I think it's not in other ones that I looked at. It doesn't mean we can't have it. So it doesn't matter to me.
I feel comfortable just having the word grounds there, but I don't know how everybody else
Yeah, I
feels.
think it covers it.
How do you feel, Gina?
I
Covers
think
the
grounds
ground.
is fine.
How do
So you saying it covers the grounds? What are you
Yes.
saying?
Well, even policy KF says facilities grounds.
Yeah.
And that's the use of our athletic field. I mean, those are all
Yeah.
spelled out.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like in a year's time, we can come back and say, look, there's a couple of things that aren't being done, we can talk about it. But
Right.
For right now.
And it's way premature to say too much about this, but I'm sure some of you have your ears to the ground more than I do. There's a pretty sizable idea being talked about in this community to address the issues that you're talking about, Joe. So right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, I know about a 1. So I don't really know that much. I really can't speak about it, but it's, to me, just the idea is really exciting.
I have one last question. Would this be considered part-time, full-time? or-
So that's a great question. I think you.
I don't know if you have a good answer.
No,
like
no, the
an
answer
easy
is-
answer, I should say.
No, there's not an easy answer, because I think a lot of this is, I think, well, let me give you sort of a generic answer, and then I'll try to answer this more specifically. I think a lot of schools that are our size look to create positions that are less than full-time. They look at economy of scale, they look at those types of things. My experience is that's not a good thing to do. So one of the things that I try to do is look, how do we match this up with something? Do we need a 100% FTE for this position? I don't think so. Is there something else we can match up with that? I do think so. And I think the more we can long-term create positions that are 100% FTEs, even if they're shared, they wear 2 hats instead of wearing 1 hat. 2 hats is probably pretty doable. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hats is not doable at all. So it really is about looking at it right now. So for me personally, I don't see this being 100%. But I do see us matching it with another position. I thought you were going to ask me a different question, so I'm not even going to go there.
No.
Maybe we'll talk later.
I'm not-
So I don't, and I think we vote the job description,
Yep.
and then we decide, you know, this is what the job needs to do. And if we need a full-time person to do it, then we hire a full-time person. If we need a part-time person, we'll compare it up. But I guess where I was going with that is I just have seen so many times over the years that people say, well, we only need a half-time person, so we're going to hire a half-time person. That's great. If you're comfortable with the idea that you're not going to get somebody who's going to stay in a position for any length of time, or you get exceptionally lucky and find somebody who only wants to work part-time. But those are very unusual and few and far between. So I think our goal, whether it's this conversation or thinking about teaching positions and such, I think the more we can get people to be here full-time without giving them 70,000 things to do, the better off we are.
Any other questions?
I do, yep.
Oh, sorry.
On facilities management number 6 on the second line, can you tell me what IAW school committee policies is?
I can't. I don't know. It's a standard thing. I mean, it's a, what do you call it? Industry thing? I don't know.
Should it not say Winthrop school committee policy?
I think there's something about facilities, blah, blah, blah. Look it up. Yeah, you know what I didn't think about? I did actually, when I wrote that, I thought I wanted to know what it was, and then I never got back to it. Get the 3 of you out there just.
But it is a
rocking
fact, it is a fact that schools, in order to instruct anything, have to meet certain
Yeah, that's-
Stand.
Yeah.
In accordance with.
Oh, that makes sense, yes.
Oh,
Accordance with.
so it's,
Gotta love Google.
Oh, I do have one more question. I noticed on other responsibilities under number 7, it talks about working with contracted bus service.
yep.
So that was, I wouldn't have thought of that, so.
I did add that one on my own. That wasn't in another one.
So that's
Which
kind of
number?
interesting. Under other responsibilities, number 7,
Oh, okay.
works with the contracted bus services needed to ensure transportation needs are being met.
So I can tell you that I did sort of steal that from one of them, was a director of facilities transportation, but we don't need a director of transportation, although we used to have one of those too.
That's good.
Any other questions? We ready to take a vote? Okay, all those in favor? Vote passes unanimously. I will entertain a motion to approve adding the position of Director of Facilities beginning fiscal year '22 as recommended by the superintendent.
So moved.
And seconded, discussion.
Well, first of all, I just want to explain, this seems like we just voted on this. I just want to be really, really clear that adding a job description and adding a job are two totally separate entities. We could write job descriptions for 20 positions that we might have at some point down the road, but we don't. Adding the job description does not mean you're going to have the position. This essentially means we'll have a position.
And fiscal year 22 starts in July,
It does.
so you would post this soon?
So my hope is if it's approved tonight, that I would post it in-house tomorrow. It would be really, really nice if we had a recommendation for you for our June 16th meeting.
So, how does that, I'm ignorant about this, so how does that work as far as contracts go? Would it just be for 1 year? Is that part of all the negotiation with a person that you interview? How does that work?
So I think a lot of that depends on who, if it's somebody in-house who's already in a position, then it's, I would see us, and again, ultimately it's your decision, but I would see us treating them as an experienced administrator if they are indeed such. And so typically, as both Sue and Megan would see, that when you're hired, this is just the way I have done things, is the first year they're in a position, they get a 1-year contract. I do a series of 1 year, 1 year, and then they go to 2 years. So I would see if this person is already somebody who's been here for a while, then I would see us probably recommending a 2-year contract.
Okay.
Part of that is, just as another reason for that, and I've said this before we had this conversation, I think we are in a perfect position to do this, because over the next few years, we'll have some funds with a little bit of flexibility. Not necessarily, although I could probably make the case for this type of position out of ESSER funds. Don't worry, Megan, I'm not going to do that. But it does give us an opportunity to sort of just experiment with this a little bit, and it makes sense to do it for at least 2 years and then reassess. So, I would want to give somebody some assurances that they would be here doing this job at least for 2 years.
And I'm assuming, because it says, sort of as recommended in the job description, it says as determined by the school committee, would this be like a year-round, what we call a year-round position?
Yeah, we had
Due
really,
to the, because summer work is huge. I mean,
Yep.
that's,
Yep.
when a
It
lot of
is.
this crew is on full-time.
yeah.
So I would like to see that as sort of a,
We have to negotiate that. I mean, one of the things that Kelly was alluding to earlier is it is the administrative bargaining group that has asked us to take a look at their contract, and obviously wages and schedule is something that we have to negotiate with them. I will say it seems counterintuitive, whatever, it seems like a no-brainer, I guess, that somebody who's going to do this is going to work a different type of year.
or day.
Or day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any other questions from anybody? We ready to take a vote? Okay, all those in I will entertain a motion to approve paying the superintendent for 10 days of unused vacation days as discussed in executive session on May 19th, 2021.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded, discussion. We pretty much discussed it all, haven't we? Are we ready for a vote?
Well, I think I would just bring up that in the discussion, we're very concerned that people take their vacations. Sometimes there are times when nothing is possible. You don't know what's going to happen to you next. That certainly, in my mind, influenced at least my voting, because normally I would be the type of person that would say, wait, no, I'm sorry, you should be taking your vacation. Because there is a certain health benefit to that, benefit to the system. But I don't know how that would have been possible this year. And so I consider this to be an exception rather than a policy of what we're going to do in the future. And I would hope that that view would be carried forward.
So let me, I can publicly say, because it was my executive session, what I shared in there, and I have no problem saying this, I do not personally like the notion of carryover, and I do not intend this to be a precedent-setting situation. I do think it was really unusual this year, and I would love to take more vacation time next year, if possible. So I appreciate the consideration, and I really do not see this as precedent setting as we move forward.
Any other questions or thoughts?
I was just wondering if it would be useful to read that statement or not.
That would be up to June.
The one that was read in executive session, I have no problem with that.
So this is in response to, the school committee has reviewed your request for a vacation payout at the end of 2020-2021 school year, instead of using it prior to the end of the current school year or rolling it over to the next school year. After reviewing your employment contract and considering the unprecedented interruptions to the school year caused by COVID-19, the school committee has agreed to grant your request as a one-time event. In no way should this decision be construed as an ongoing approval. The school committee considered the welfare of the district if we required you to use the remaining days during the school year or carry them over to the 2021-2022 school year. Neither of these considerations are palatable to the school committee. The school committee expects you to use your vacation days as part of your ongoing self-care plan in the future. So that's what the agreement is.
Yes, you go right ahead.
Joe wants to play more golf.
Yeah, I know. I'm tired of beating you, so I'm not playing with him anymore.
See, you take vacation days in practice.
That's true.
Any other discussion, thoughts, comments?
No.
Are we ready for a vote? Okay, all those in favor? Vote passes unanimously.
Thank you. I know Emily and Josh wanted to vote yes on that too.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to recommend to the town council to increase the amount of annual school committee stipends as follows. Chair and vice chair to $1,500 and school committee member to $1,000.
So moved.
Moved and seconded, discussion.
So I'd like to suggest that you consider amending the motion. I just have a conversation with town manager Colbrook, who's in favor of this, but I think he's, the issue is that now this is an extraordinary jump all at once, certainly well worth it. Did I send you a separate memo, or did I just send it to him? It basically said this broke down to like $3.
Yeah, we got that
Yes.
information.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, here it is. One of the things that he suggested that we do is that we put in an hourly rate up to a certain amount, which is going to be a bit of a pain in the butt, but I think we don't have to be really stringent about keeping track of hours. The point in doing this, when I came up with those numbers, when we talked about that, I worked them, you're now making about 25% of minimum wage. And so it would make sense that you make at least minimum wage. And the numbers we came up with, based upon a very conservative estimate of the number of hours that you put in a year's time, takes all of you to about $12.50 an hour. So I would say you might want to say chair and vice chair $12.50 an hour up to $1,500, and school committee members $12.50 up to $1,000. And just if you this is pretty rough, but just looking at the number of meetings that you have, how long those meetings last, and negotiations is a perfect example. Didn't do anything the first half and then work tirelessly, not just in meeting, but in meeting, the three of us meeting, all those hours add up. So policy committee meets on a regular basis, finance meets on a regular basis, and the chair and the vice chair meet with me twice a month, and not because of me, because I don't like to talk too much, but these two just never let me get out of there, and it goes 2 or 3 hours. So really, if you look at it, the numbers really add up, and so I think it'll be more palatable if we don't, because I already got the question, well, what if so-and-so doesn't attend the meeting? It's like, well, then they probably are going to still get the maximum amount, because that's what we do with stipends. And first of all, that's not an issue. In the short time I've been here, people attend the meetings.
Sorry to interrupt. How would that get tracked? Would we have
I
to
think
set-
we can do that. I can ask Colleen to do it.
Okay.
It's not that difficult to just say, let's keep track of that. We just need to say, she knows, you report, and you always do it, you report, we were here from the finance committee. That's probably the one that's least known to me. But she can figure that out. She can just, shoot either one of you a note and say, hey, I noticed warrants were done, how much time did you guys, whatever. And she'll keep track of it. I would not, I think if they expect you guys, I don't want time cards submitted, I don't want
Well, I don't want to make extra work for anyone. That's
Yeah.
why this was just sort of nice. to
But it's
have.
not that difficult. I mean, it really is not much difference if you do minutes.
Sorry, so how would that also get paid? Would that get paid through weekly warrant? I mean, not weekly warrants, or would it be?
No, I still think as what already, I don't even know where that was established, but twice a year. You can-
Once.
Oh, I
Yeah,
think
we get paid once a year.
paid
In
once a year.
January,
That's weird.
December, isn't it?
I'd like to go.
somewhere around there.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
why,
yeah.
that's, I don't know if I was paid for last year or this year on this, I don't know how it even falls.
So it
It's
seems,
at the end of the year.
I honestly think that, and we can have this discussion later once it gets approved about when it gets paid. Because for me personally, if I were you guys, I would want to get paid at the end of the fiscal year. So, I mean, January seems like, I know that when there's a turnover and that type of stuff, but it would make more sense if you did on the fiscal calendar, it'd be paid at the end of June, the last pay in June. If those of you who are not getting off the board, then it becomes whatever the stipend is. For those who are, they'll keep track of the hours, and people will be paid according to their hours.
So one of the things we talked about before, at our last discussion, was what would be considered an activity that we do that would be counted. So,
Well, I think we just said, I mean, essentially, anytime that you are together to do school business, school business, so obviously these meetings are a no-brainer. Any special meetings or workshops that you meet would be counted, and the committee work that you do. That's when it's a little trickier in terms of keeping track of, and that's why I'd like to ask them to consider just doing this stipend. I mean, first of all, it's just not a huge amount of money. It will look like, I think for some of the counselors, I can see them being upset because it's a lot more than they're making now. It's a lot more. But when I talked to Jeff about it, Jeff's like, this is spelled out pretty clearly in the charter. In order for the amount that the council gets paid is in the charter, so the charter would have to be changed. And he said, we are not opening up the charter to change the stipend. So I hope that doesn't become an obstacle. I think the request is both reasonable and defensible in
And
my
we're
mind.
funding it ourselves too. I mean, well, the town, it's coming out of our budget, not
Right.
anywhere
Yeah.
else as well.
And but add it all up, it's, it's $6,000.
The thing which also makes us a little bit different, it shouldn't be, but it does. In reviewing, we get a lot of communication. We have a lot of preparation types of things that it's nice to read this before you get to the meeting, okay, so that you're well informed. And we want that to take place, that's not the question. But I can tell you that I've always found that when I look at the difference between this group looking at things, reading things, being prepared for the subject, we do a very good job as compared to some of them. And that is so obvious when I didn't see that. Well, that's not quite the way it should be. And I'm serious about it. We just do. And I just think we have many more decisions to make on the financial side, on the policy side, things of that nature that we get involved with that they don't. I'm sorry, but that is the case.
So I'm suggesting that if you want to make a friendly amendment between the person who made the motion and the person who seconded it, that's what I'm suggesting. If you don't want to do that, that's totally up to you guys.
I can't go to Dunkin' Donuts for more money.
I don't know, I guess I don't know. I get what you're saying, but I think just doing the stipend is the easiest thing.
Okay, you try it.
I think, I agree, I think that it will become a nightmare. If there's a perception that someone's not pulling their weight to that full amount, and someone questions that, it then becomes, let me pull all of these records, and did I really tell you how much I spent, or did I tell you maybe it was 2 hours, but it was really 4.5, but I just said
Yeah.
2, I just wouldn't want to open up for that.
I'm fine either way. That was part of our conversation. He didn't suggest that. I sent him the same information I sent you guys, so I think he, $12.50 an hour, which equates to this, doesn't feel, if you say, well, they're going to go from $3.50 an hour to $12.50 an hour. I don't know. That just struck me as read in the conversation. So he wasn't saying one way or another, just suggesting it. So I'd say move forward.
Okay, so we will keep this motion the way it is.
Yes.
Okay?
So when I wrote it, I really didn't intend to say to them, this is, this is 1,500 to 1,000 is kind of the cap. There's no doubt in my mind, if we really kept track of hours and we didn't have a cap, that everybody would make more, yeah.
And you will be able to present this to them and make your case.
Correct.
After they pass the budget.
Yes. Okay. All right, are we ready for a vote? Yes. All right, all those in favor? Passes unanimously. Okay. New business. Bear with me for a second. Turn my pages. I have notes everywhere. Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the following policies or exhibits for first reading. GCOA staff evaluation, GCOA-R staff evaluation handbook, KF-E1 building use form, KF-E2 athletic facility use agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. I would like to, if it would be okay with everybody, to look at KF-E1 and KF-E2 first. I think we would get through those quickly, and then Megan is going to speak to the other two policies, and that way we won't have to stop her. She can go as long as she wants. far as those two policies go, I think the only thing that was changed was, it was changed to the exhibit. So it said something else before, it didn't say E1 and E2. They should have been exhibits. So that was changed and they were reformatted. And that is the only thing that changed on either one of those. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
Is athletic administrator the same as athletic director?
Director, yeah.
So if everybody's okay with those two things, we can move on to the other two policies. Okay, and I just want to give you just a little bit of a heads up, if you haven't, hopefully you've seen them already, but it's long. So Megan has agreed to give us a synopsis of the changes and why. She's going to highlight that for us. And also, this is just a first reading, so we'll have an extended period between now and when we do the second reading, because we will not be having a meeting the first Wednesday in July. So that will give us extra time to look at this one and digest it fully. Okay, Megan?
Perfect. So earlier this year, the committee actually took a look at our policy GCOA, which is the supervision and evaluation of staff. And the initial edits that were made were to reflect a change in law. So teachers who are probationary, instead of being 3, it was 2 years. And then it was just looked over one more time to make sure that it aligned with any modifications that we made to our plan. So there really isn't any changes to the policy GCOA in itself. It just becomes part of the handbook. So we're going to take a look at that again. So we can jump right into the handbook. There are a couple larger changes that were made, and really they're just outlined for teachers and for administrators in this handbook. So taking a look at, let's see, I think I got my pages all kerfuffled.
Oh, Megan?
I just had to ask you a question.
Yeah.
In this first GCOA, it talks about the 3-year rotating cycle probationary teachers. Did you just say it's changed?
So the 3-year cycle is for continuing contract teachers. That is a 3-year cycle. The law that shifted is probationary teachers is only a 2-year cycle now, and that used to be a 3-year cycle. So that has shifted down to 2. So once we have approved a teacher to go on to continuing contract, they have their summative evaluation their 3rd year, and they have observations the first 2. And then that 3rd year is really when there's some, real intensive time spent with that teacher to, give them the feedback that they're looking forward to improve and grow in their practice. Yeah, of course. So looking into the handbook, you'll see there's a lot of little edits and there's some larger edits also. So the smaller pieces were that a lot of the language needed to be paralleled throughout the whole document. So initially when this was put together, it was a requirement from the state to have a plan for our teacher evaluation system, and it was a little bit of Frankenstein. So we took kind of a comprehensive look at it and really wanted to make it a unified document that uses the same language consistently throughout it. So that's some of the little edits that you're going to see throughout. So if we look at our level 1 teachers, a big shift in, and it's not really a shift in what we do, but it's a shift in verbiage, is in that first table. So if we're looking at, and I don't know if I don't have my pages labeled, but I think it would be page 3, you can see that student growth is taken off. So student growth, or our district called them student learning objectives, was part of the teacher evaluation as required by law previously. And starting in September of 2021, that is no longer a requirement from the state, and our steering committee voted to not have it part of our formal evaluation process. Not that student data isn't valuable, but that it won't be used when evaluating a teacher in their professional, growth in their professional practice. Another shift kind of on that same table in that second box is that instead of just saying that professional performance is based on observation or only one of the areas that Marzano outlines as important, we wanted to really kind of shift that to looking more at all of the standards and then being assessed through ratings on observation, conversation, and documentation, because part of these standards cannot be observed. So that professional practice piece and that performance piece really requires more than just an observation. So we wanted to make that really apparent here in this section. And then obviously we want our teachers to always be learners, and they are lifelong learners, and so let's give them a modality to do that. So the other piece is the growth plan. And the changes there are really just a reflection of the updated Marzano standards. We do the Marzano focused teacher evaluation model instead of the art science of teaching. So it's just kind of the next iteration of that. And that really is a big piece that shifted kind of in all of the different areas of the handbook. So whether you're a probationary teacher, it's also the exact same piece for the continuing contract teachers. Looking at the timeline, we did a little bit more clarity around that growth plan. So we're asking that probationary teachers spend some time in their first 2 years taking a self-assessment on the Marzano standards to kind of see where they're at and familiarize themselves with research-based best practices. And then they create a growth plan, which the feedback that we had gotten initially this year from staff, we put out a survey, was that they really wanted to see themselves in their growth plan. They want to be given the opportunity and encouraged to create goals that mattered, and that would really help improve and highlight their practice. And so part of this plan, we want to be really clear that 2 of those are going to be personally chosen. Teachers have been encouraged to do this in the past, but there's been multiple district and building level goals that were already assigned, so it became a lot to develop additional ones on top of that. So also a caveat to that is that they would be at most 1 building or district goal with corresponding action steps that the teacher would be able to decide, but that element itself would be district or building chosen, and that would be identified by the A team. Otherwise, most of the other pieces there are very similar. Again, if we go down to one of the items for April 15th, the administrator is gathering data. They're not just doing an observation, they're gathering data on that professional performance piece, right? So they're doing observations, they're having professional conversations, and they're looking at any other type of documentation. So it's more than just that observation piece. I think that pretty much sums up our probationary staff. The annual roles and responsibilities are just a list of the above timeline items. So that just lines up nicely. So you can see that some of those pieces are very similar to the pieces above for both the administrator and the teacher. So going into level 2, which is our continuing contract teacher, and Mr. Petrosky, this is where the continuing contract teachers have the 3-year cycle instead of the 2-year cycle, and that's reflected in the timeline here. That table is identical to our probationary teachers because we're looking for the same pieces and parts. Just some of the requirements are a little bit different. So a piece that is shifted here is that we are not requiring a self-assessment for our continuing contract teachers every year. At this point, they've done 2 intensive years of thinking about those standards. Where am I at? Do they have to go through the process of doing a self-assessment for everything? Again, the feedback that we got from our teachers was that they're familiar with these standards. They know where their strengths and weaknesses are, and they have access to them, so they could choose to do a self-assessment, but it is not going to be a mandatory piece of their evaluation, especially in a non-summative year. Instead, they can just kind of save that time to develop some really intentional action steps. So that was a shift here. Again, the growth plan is 2 chosen growth goals, at least 2. More than welcome to do more. And then 1 building district goal for growth. We did have some great conversations about observation in your non-summative year. And it's really not surprising to me to hear from teachers that they want really good feedback from their administrators. They want to know how to get better, and you get better by having someone observe you and talk to you about your practice and encourage that reflective process. And so in the non-summative years, we did put at least 1 informal observation in there. We wanted to make sure that we kept that because teachers are hungry for that feedback. It's pretty cool that the feedback that we got from our survey was that they wanted more feedback. and really tailored to their class or to their grade level. So we wanted to make sure that was still part of the plan. Other than that, it is just some small edits, and again, when we go to the roles and responsibilities, it's just making sure that that's mirrored language from above. The level 3, so that's when teachers are put on a professional improvement plan. The only updates there were with the Marzano model. We didn't really get much feedback on needing to modify that in any way, so those are minimal updates. And then part of our evaluation model is that teachers are given a summative effectiveness rating. So they get a number. And it's based on 2 different buckets, the same 2 boxes that we saw in the beginning of each of these sections. So we have the growth plan, and we have our professional performance standards. So it's all of those observations, conversations, and documentation pieces that administrators are gathering throughout the year. So the growth plan, this was also a really cool discussion with teachers around what matters most to you. The steering committee is comprised mainly of teachers. They have the majority. So, what percentage would they want their growth plan to be? What percentage do they want their professional performance standards to be at? And that was a really cool discussion to have with people. So how much should be focused on growth and how much should really be focused on what I'm doing every day? And the needle kind of landed at 40% and 60%. Previously, we did have those student learning objectives in there, and so that did modify those percentages a little bit, and we've defaulted in the last year, I think, I feel like it's maybe 50. I'm not exactly sure right now what the default was on the program itself, but we will be setting it intentionally at 40% for the growth plan and 60% for the professional performance standards. And so that kind of goes through the grading processes for that. There was no big changes in how to grade them, just that the weightings really were modified. The summative score translation and rubric kind of just gives more additional information. All of it was great. We thought it was true to what we were hoping that those effective, highly effective, partially effective modalities would be. We took out a handful of pages here, so you'll see a lot of strike-throughs. The components of the annual student growth goal sheet is no longer a requirement, so that was removed, along with the student growth goal sheet on the following page. We did keep in another piece about the SCR, the summative effectiveness rating. This just gives a little bit more information on practice and what it would look like versus the teacher expectations, which was in the previous rubric. Another piece of discussion in our steering committee this year was also the training around the PPEG and really trying to shift that narrative a little bit too, to be the meaning behind it and the purpose behind it, and really trying to drive that home as one of our goals next year, whether it's through the steering committee or something that I maybe help to head up in my position. When we're talking about new hires, when we're introducing the plan next year to teachers on our opening day, how can we get our teachers excited to look at themselves and to be reflective practitioners? And so training was kind of a lot of our discussion, and we reflected on what we are doing and where we want to move with that too. So that's not all necessarily reflected in the handbook, but I'm excited to kind of think about what that will look like next year too. Let's see. We added in the Marzano focused teacher model. So Appendix A was something that had been previously mentioned to be put in, but it was actually not included. Appendix B had some small edits again to take out the student growth goals and to align with just our 2 buckets now. The glossary of terms kind of reflects the new language and the consistent language throughout the document. And there are a handful of things we were able to take out. So teacher of record was a big piece that had to do with student learning objectives. So that really doesn't need to be in the glossary because it wasn't part of the updated document. I added in Appendix D, and this is the table. This actually is used by many districts across the state, and the feedback that we got from our eye observation consultant is that Mr. Jeffrey Ladd had a hand in creating this. And so when we kind of started tackling eye observation as a district, He's very linear, he's very organized, and so he created this table to help outline our deadlines for pieces and parts of the plan, and this is actually used somewhat across the state right now with other school districts. So it's nice to know that people are borrowing from us and from our administrators. An additional piece that was added to this but not created was the school counselors kind of appendix. This is something that has been used for the past couple years. It was developed, I think, in 2019, and so it kind of hit a speed bump going into 2019-2020 school year with COVID. So I think that this year was the first year that they were really utilizing this model because they use different standards outside of Marzano. They use the Danielson standards for school counselors. Yes?
Is there an Appendix D somewhere that's just not included in this paperwork?
What was it E?
Yeah.
E is the glossary of terms, I think.
So I see glossary of terms just doesn't have an appendix name on it, I guess. Because I say C, D, F, G.
Oh,
Yeah.
so I see that you have the E, F, G. There was one document that I didn't mention as I was kind of popping through them, and that was Appendix C. It was the level nomination form, so it's just letting teachers know annually where they are. I didn't mention this kind of in my summary, so that could have been why.
So do we just need to have Appendix E
Appendix E.
labeled?
Appendix E is on page 41, at the bottom of the page.
Appendix C and then just go on.
Oh, I see, it just didn't make it to the next page.
No, Appendix C is the glossary. The appendix is on page 41, but it probably belongs on top of the glossary. Is that what I think?
Oh, yeah.
Yep, there it is. The title is on the wrong.
If we look at ours, it's right here.
Yeah.
I think I have a different copy than you. I printed out my Google Docs copy, not mine. So I can double check that, at one point, all these fun colors will be out of it.
Well, what is that after having talked about yet is the school counselors. Which is what we talked about. On page 46.
Yep, that's the last two pages.
Holly.
What's behind a couple of...
Holly knows her letters.
I found it. I'm all set.
All assume.
So I had a question for you. Is this something that you look at every year?
So-
Or how does this work?
So we don't necessarily have a cycle for looking through our handbook. I think that's something that we can think about as a district on, how do we cyclically go through policies, but also go through kind of our handbooks. This just made sense this year. One, it's something I'm super passionate about, having come from someone who did this evaluation process for 7 years prior. It was part of my job description to be part of the steering committee, so I took that opportunity and ran with it. We also did have that shift in law. So not just the change from 3 to 2 years, but taking out our student learning objectives is actually a huge shift. And when this handbook was originally created, that was the hot topic, and honestly, it was the hot topic across the state. So how is student data going to impact the evaluation of teachers? And so that really, with that change occurring next September, that was really the driving force between coming up with a new handbook that's going to mirror our state expectations and what the steering committee had to put forth as a kind of their recommendation.
One of the things that was consistent with the old law and the new law is the thing that I was most excited about in the previous district where I was, and it was really great to have Megan lead this effort. This is really an attempt, I think a good attempt. I think it's failed in a lot of places. I don't think it's going to fail here. To have the teachers be reflective about what they want to be held accountable for, to see themselves professionally and not to be sort of told, but to really do mirror as teachers what we ask our students to do, which is to be reflective and challenge themselves and not try to find the sort of the minimum way out. And so by design, the law says that the majority of people on what they refer to as the PPEG, had to be teachers. And it's really good. It's to really change the whole mindset around supervision and evaluation to be a growth mindset, not a gotcha system. And in some places, it's really worked very effectively, and others not so much. So I think this is a really great step. I think the teachers who are involved in this, I think we're very passionate and excited about making these changes, in which they could say to an administrator or to a colleague, here's what I want help with. Here's what I want you to tell me about. Here's where I think I'm weak. Help me get better, instead of saying, I'm going to admit that I'm weak, and then you're going to use it to get rid of me, which really never was the truth, but it's the way people felt. So I think this is a really outstanding job of trying to move that, that mindset along.
It's obvious how much work is put into this. A lot of work. So the reason why I asked that first question, Megan, is because you talked about a goal for next year with the training. So would that mean that this would change again? Or?
No. The handbook kind of reflects the expectations for training and some of the legal obligations that we have to train both our staff and our administrators. Kind of bringing the spice to it, I guess, is going to be something that I feel strongly about, and our steering committee said that would be something that they know teachers would respond well to. So.
All right, well maybe, even if you don't have to bring it in the calls, maybe you can just let us know when you get that spice going. Cooking.
Can do. Will do.
Awesome.
They want to hear from you more often.
Yes, it's exciting. Any other questions? All right, so are we ready to take a vote on these first readings?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor? Vote passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the 5-year school tuition agreement with Fayette Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded discussion.
Do we provide transportation?
We do not. Fayette provides transportation, and it should be in here somewhere.
And maybe I was looking for, but I didn't come to it before I asked, so.
Yeah, I will tell you, you can look through it and look for specific details, but this is, remember, Fayette's in a position where they
Oh,
send,
transportation, yeah.
maybe you don't know, but Fayette's in a position, and if you didn't know this, I was the superintendent for 1 year, probably the last time this was done. They send their kids to 3 schools, so it becomes a little bit competitive for us to try and make our schools more appealing, to whatever, to have them come in here. But basically, this contract has maximum tuition rates that we can get and are allowable by state law. It maximizes the reimbursement or the payment for special ed students, so they are not a burden to our Winthrop taxpayers. They're all accounted for. So honestly, as I look through it, and the young lady who's the superintendent principal up there is somebody I hired, and she's I'm her mentor. So I said, Tara, you better not be messing with us. And so I said that jokingly, but looking through it, to me, it's as favorable of tuition agreement as you could possibly get. So I strongly encourage you to approve it.
Any questions? Are you still looking at things, Joe and Kelly? I don't want to rush you along.
I'm good.
Okay. So are we ready to take a vote? All right, all those in favor? Passes unanimously. Okay, I will entertain a motion to nominate Emily Fortin as district social worker beginning fiscal year 22.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
You want to hear from Sue?
I'm hoping.
Yes, and Emily is with us on Zoom, so.
Yay. Hi, Emily.
So Emily is a Winthrop High School alumni. After graduation, Emily went on to the University of Maine, where she obtained a bachelor's degree in liberal arts and sciences. During her college years, she served the Winthrop schools as a substitute teacher. After graduation, Emily did work in various roles, such as preschool teacher, direct support professional, and community case manager. Emily said something that sort of rang true. Emily decided that social work was not something she did, but who she was. So she went back to pursue her master's degree in social work. While in school, Emily worked for Family Planning and SKCDC. She left that position back in October of 2020 to stay at home with her, and I'm hoping I get this right, her daughter. Yes, I was right, thank you. When this position opened, she made the decision to apply to give back to the community that gave her so much. Emily brings a wealth of knowledge to the Winthrop community, having grown up in this area. Her colleagues and supervisors report that Emily is easygoing, non-judgmental, patient, organized, and extremely professional. The interview team was excited to hear that Emily is data-driven and shows empathy. It was very clear that we could see Emily fitting in nicely in all three buildings which make up the Winthrop schools.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, I will call the vote then. All those in favor? Vote passes unanimously. Congratulations, Emily. Welcome.
Does she want to unmute and say anything?
Emily, is there anything did you want to unmute and say anything?
Sure, I just want to say thank you for saying such nice things, Sue, and thank you everybody. I'm really excited for this opportunity.
Welcome.
We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to nominate Lori Foster as district social worker beginning fiscal year 22. So moved. Second. And seconded. Discussion. You're on. How about again?
So Lori has been in a Tech 3 working in the Growing Tree program located at the grade school for the past 7 years. Prior to coming to work in Winthrop, Lori worked in a variety of roles at New Beginnings, including supporting homeless youth. Lori shared with the interview committee that this position, that of social worker, is her ultimate goal. Lori has 3 children that attend the Winthrop schools, a senior, a junior, and a 6th grader. Lori has spent countless hours working supporting a variety of activities within the community. The interview team loved that Lori has a strength-based view and always looks at the good in people. She asks questions and is intuitive. She is committed to her work and excited to take on a new role within the Winthrop schools.
Thank you. All right, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Vote passes unanimously. Is Lori with us? When you talk to her, can you tell her to say congratulations? I sure will. Thank you. I will entertain a motion to nominate Haley Colpitz as high school math teacher beginning fiscal year 22. So moved. Second. And second for discussion. Anything?
Sure.
Anyone
This
add?
young lady is a experienced math teacher. She's been teaching at Telstar High School for the last 7 years. She teaches everything from Algebra 1 right through pre-calculus, and actually is looking forward to the opportunity of possibly teaching calculus at Winthrop High School. Great comments from her building principal. Somebody who goes into school and knows she's got the math to teach, but also there to help and support any kid in any way she can.
Thank you. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Vote passes unanimously. Can you tell her we say congratulations when you speak with her? Thank you. I will entertain a motion to nominate Erica Gunderson as 5th grade teacher beginning fiscal year 22. So moved. Second. And seconded. Discussion.
So Erica has stepped in this year to help us out as the COVID teacher for the year. And she stepped in the kindergarten classroom, did a wonderful job. And the first thing when she started here, I told her how I was also new here. I said, but you're absolutely going to love it. And she has said that all year. You were right. I love this place. I love this place. So when this opportunity came up, she applied for it. She has 16 years of prior experience. 15 of those years were in Florida. She taught kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade. And it's funny but not funny. Due to COVID, the primary side really hasn't visited the 3 through 5 side much at all. As a matter of fact, she met one of our 5th grade teachers today for the first time. And it was our remote teacher who has been in the building a few times, and she's heard about her, but never met her. So she's joking now how she's moved to the big kids side. And she's been up there a couple of times, and I saw her today. She was like, guess what? I was up with the big kids today. So she's thrilled for this opportunity to stay on with us. And she also recently bought a home here in Winthrop. Colleen's home, I believe, right? I think Colleen's is his home. So she's moved also, her family's in the Bethel area. But she loves it so much here. She bought a home here, hoping that she could find, her home here with us at WGS. So very excited for the opportunity.
Wonderful, thank you. I will call the vote. All those in favor? Vote passes unanimously. Can you wish her congratulations for us? Thank you. I will entertain a motion to nominate Morgan Manser as 5th grade teacher beginning fiscal year 22.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. Discussion?
So Morgan has been an interesting young lady. She came on, just new out of school. She graduated from University of Maine Farmington in December. She came on in the fall in the midst of all this COVID stuff as a student teacher. She was in the 4th grade classroom as a student teacher, and then partway through the first part of the year, we had a 4th grade teacher who was going to need to be out for maternity leave for 6 weeks. And so we spoke with her advisor at UMF and said, do you think it would be okay if we, because at that time, I mean, there were no other people to come in and help us out, and Morgan was doing a wonderful job. So we asked her advisor, do you think it would be okay if we proposed to Morgan that she might move into this classroom for 6 weeks? And her advisor hesitated a little bit because, they should be able to have that student teaching opportunity. But when we mentioned it to Morgan, she was like, I'm up for it, I'm ready. And she was like, she hit the ground running, did a wonderful job for that 6 weeks maternity. Then she graduated in December and we had an opening in 2nd grade. And so again, I went back to her and said, Morgan, I have an opportunity, but I'm not sure if, you would be up for this. It's moving to 2nd grade. She never, she was just like, yes, I'm ready for that too. And she stepped into that 2nd grade classroom just like she had been in there from September. And she has been doing that same outstanding job in that classroom since she stepped in there in January. So she'll finish up the year with us, next week as a 2nd grade teacher. When the opportunity came up for the 5th grade position, she was like, oh my gosh, it's my chance to go. They all want to go upstairs. I don't know what that is. But she was like, it's my chance to go back upstairs with the big kids or whatever. So she applied, and she, even though she's just had like that half year, a little bit more like a year-long experience, you would think this young lady had a lot more experience under her belt than that. She's a natural teacher and educator. Being in a classroom is definitely a great fit for her. So she's very excited to be able to stay here with us.
And she's also, she's not from Winthrop, but she is from an area school, a nearby town. So she will, probably, hopefully, if they work out.
She's my daughter's teacher right now, and just breath of fresh air. She sounds like a better teacher when you talk to her. She does a really good job.
So I probably didn't say, and I probably should let you explain this, Jolene, once I tell you what I want you to explain. If you're sort of following the resignations and retirements and whatever, you may wonder why we had 2 5th grade openings. And do you want to explain that?
Yeah, so we had 2 5th grade openings because one of our 5th grade teachers, Maggie Martin, was here for this year and is expecting a little one. So she's decided to be an at-home mom. Lovely young lady, has done a fabulous job. I mentioned last time that when we met that she's promised I would get the first phone call when she's ready to come back to teaching. The other 5th grade position became available because Erica Gunderson decided that she wanted a different opportunity and wanted to kind of explore different grade levels. And so she moved into a 3rd grade position.
Erica Garrett.
Erica Garrett, sorry. Thank you, Sue. Well, Erica Gunderson is going to be in the 5th grade. She was just a few minutes ago. Erica Garrett went from 5th grade to 3rd grade. So we've just had changes and people wanting to explore different and have different opportunities in education.
Awesome, thank you.
That's exciting.
All right, I will call the vote. All those in favor? It passes unanimously. That's okay. Can you also congratulate her for us? Thank you. Okay, I will entertain a motion to ratify an agreement between the Winthrop School Committee and the Winthrop Educators Association dated September 1st, 2021 through August 31st, 2024.
So moved. Take it, Kelly.
I
Hey,
did.
Marna.
Okay, moved and seconded, discussion.
I think you've heard a lot about this as it's gone. I will just say that both Joe and Kelly have done a great job, and it was I think for the most part, a pretty smooth process. So I think the hardest part has been trying to get the CBA formatted correctly and typed out
The
correctly.
person that volunteered to type it.
Should never volunteer again.
Yeah, I think you said it went pretty quickly. At our first meeting with the WEA, we made a pretty aggressive agreement as far as how long we wanted the session to go, knowing that there was a possibility it might need to go longer. But we were able to make that work. It's great.
Thank you for all your hard work,
Yeah.
both of you.
Yes.
Everyone.
Do you want to say anything, Joe, or you look like you're about to say something?
He's getting ready to sign.
Oh,
It's my
okay.
job. My job
Oh,
all along
okay.
has been to
Well,
sign things, okay? But sometimes I have to take some acid before I do those things.
Well, then I'll call the vote so you can get to your signing.
This is a really good contract, though, let me say. It was a good process, and it was also good to correct some things that, in terms of really the wording from anything else, from 3 years ago and everything else. I mean, there was pressure here, but it was nowhere near the pressure that we had 3 years ago, I can tell you right now. This, for teachers, this is a really good example of a school district that said you're worth it. You know, we want to make this a good place for you to teach. And we're entering a new era, only because some people may have objected to the way the state has stepped in and said you must pay a minimum. Personally, I never had that problem. I said they deserve more money. I mean, the world out there today has changed greatly in terms of what you can make. We're still not really there. It's part of it is I'm a big believer in the state picking up more of the funding of this and less reliance on the property tax, because we'll never get to where they want to be until we get the state to basically take 100% of the funding.
So one of the things that I want to just piggyback on that is, this has been a little bit of a strange process just in terms of how quickly this has come up. And what I typically have done is I will make a sort of a cheat sheet. And Janet asked about this. I had Colleen send I didn't have her make copies for all of you. You're welcome to have hard copies if you want. But the one thing I would have highlighted at the very beginning is very much what Joe just said. The state minimum for salaries next year is $37,500. The step zero here in Winthrop next year will be $38,500. You know, we went above the state average by $1,000, which really makes us quite competitive. And from my perspective, the cultural climate here in Winthrop can't be beat. And now that our money is a little more competitive, I think we're going to be in really good shape of not just recruiting, but retaining teachers moving forward.
Excellent. Awesome. You ready to take a vote?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor? Vote passes unanimously. Sign, Joe, sign.
Do you want me to do it?
Well, while Joe is
trying
signing,
to figure out
are there
which
any
line to
public
sign.
comments? None. Not one. Oh. Okay, well then we will move along to school committee comments. Jana?
Congratulations to the class of 2021. You've done it, almost. Go out and do some great things representing the town and families in the best way possible. And I look forward to seeing all the incredible things you do. I've grown up with a lot of these kids, with my niece graduating this year. Congratulations, Lindsay, she'll probably kill me for that. But just super proud of this class. It's been really fun watching you guys all grow up. And thank you also to everyone here that works for Winthrop Public Schools for an incredible year that will forever go down in history, and hopefully we will never repeat. And Josh, thank you for everything you have done for us here and everything you have done for your students at the high school. It's great to have students who are involved and don't just come to the meetings, but bring that stuff back and forth, so thank you.
I don't have much to say, other than thank you for this yearbook. It's really nice. Other than that, that's it.
Okay. Kelly?
Yes, thank you very much for the yearbook. I'm excited to look through and see everything that happened this year. It's kind of sad not being able to go in and see things happen firsthand. Things are changing, and that's really positive. I love the sign out on the Winthrop grade school lawn with all the seniors. That's awesome. I saw them starting to put it up the other day, and then to come by and actually see it was really, really cool. Yeah, good luck at the end of the year. Congratulations. We'll see everybody else. Sorry you're not going.
We're not.
Should do that with us. Joe?
I'm fine. I really wish everyone a very exciting weekend, as well as a very safe weekend too. But there's no question that the students are revved up and ready to go. So that's great.
I would also like to congratulate the class of 2021, and I would like to highlight one particular senior, if people allow me for a few minutes. As many of you probably know, our very own Joshua Dean Whaley is graduating on Sunday. On behalf of the school committee and Mr. Hodgkin, I'd like to thank Josh for all his hard work as a student representative. You've been here longer than a lot of us here, so I thought that was a cool thing to point out. I'd like to take a few minutes to highlight who Josh is as a person, as well as some of his accomplishments. Josh likes to write acrostic poems. I've noticed this because I love to write them, and I thought I was the only one in the world who loved to write them, so he's like a kindred spirit to me. So I'm going to read one that is about you, and it's Joshua D.W. So J is for jolly, O is for open-hearted, S is for sensational, H is for humble, U is for unselfish, A is for athletic, D is for dependable, and W is definitely for witty. These are just a few of the attributes that make Josh the quality person that he is. To name a few of his accomplishments, he has inspired leadership and represented his peers by serving on the leadership team and student council, as well as here. He wows audiences in his one-acts and his theater productions. One way he has served his community is through the National Honor Society service projects. He's entertained his classmates and others by contributing to WPS. He's excelled in both soccer and tennis. He's been elected by his peers as having the most school spirit, the best personality, most loved by teachers, best hair, most likely to be on TV, and best dressed. And I'm sure.
By the way, I got best hair when I was a senior.
I'm sure there's more that I missed. Josh will be attending Boston College in the fall to study elementary education. Josh, we are so happy for you, and we wish you the very best. And please accept this sending off gift from the school committee and Mr. Hodgkin and everybody else here.
I'm gonna get a picture. Hold on, Josh. Turn around. Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You have your own copy of your poem. You can open it if you'd like.
Oh, yeah.
it.
Yeah, open it though.
Oh, gosh, I got it. I didn't know if it was like one of those like puzzle things. Thank you so much.
So we wanted to get you a gift card to Boston College particularly. However, I didn't know how long it would take them to ship it, and they told me I could do it electronically, but then when I tried to do it, it didn't work. So we opted for that, but that's for the bookstore if you want to get some merch,
Oh, yeah.
or books, or whatever you want, that's for you to take with you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I don't know if you noticed, but Amelie's been writing all of this down.
Got a couple more years to serve.
It's all right, I'm already taking notes. So,
Wait, there's a pattern.
good luck with everything, Josh.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you so much for being here for, have you been here 2 or 3 years?
Just two. Unbelievable.
Just two. Oh, that's great.
We hope.
Oh,
Okay. Did I ask you to?
Nope.
No.
I did, and I'm so sorry, I was so excited.
She
Emily,
just
go
go
ahead.
ahead and be the shining star.
That's right.
Yeah, I'd also just like to congratulate the class of 2021. My brother is leaving, a lot of my friends are leaving, and obviously I'm sad about that, but I'm also very excited to see what everybody does. And also, if I don't know if any of you have Instagram, but if you do, you can check out the Winthrop High School's page, and they're posting where everyone's going and what their plans are. So that's been really cool to look at for those that I didn't know about. So yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you, and I saw them, those are so cool.
Those are awesome.
What is it on again?
Instagram.
And Facebook, I think. I feel like
I
it's
saw
on
it on
Facebook
Facebook
too, yeah.
Yeah, it's got their senior picture and what they're going to do and where they're going, right here. It's really cool.
Who did this thing out here?
Parents.
Parents? That is awesome.
Josh?
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much. That was so nice. I was not expecting that. I mean, I think criticism here, bad day to have the first day without masks because I couldn't hide all of it. But no, thank you so much. It's been super fun. I've learned a lot from each and every one of you. I love just sitting here and taking in all the information, and I just find myself learning new things, which I just it's been amazing. So thank you so much. So I guess to go on with my committee comment. So the boys Tennessee was continuing their playoffs. They have their first match tomorrow, so it should be pretty fun. It's at 2:30 at the White Courts, and hopefully we're looking to go for a state round. Marching practice has been really great. Thank you, Mr. Campbell, and Mr. Sullivan, and Ms. Mitchell. It's been fun. It's definitely I don't know, kind of taken back by it because it's just it's finally happening. So it's really fun. It's really nice that we could have it in the gym, and now that it's not too much of a problem to have figuring out all the tickets and whether people have enough. Because I know a lot of students have a media family that's pretty big, so it's been super fun. Excited for graduation, and I hope to see some of you guys there. And I have one more thing. Oh yes, and the seniors have finished their gift for the school, their senior gift for the school, and we built a garden right outside Mr. Campbell's office, kind of outside the library. And it's really nice, and we named it the Koi Pond. Just a nice little. It's kind of a little inside joke.
What's it called again?
The Koi Pond. Koi Pond. It's like a little inside joke, just because I don't know. It looked like a pond at first, and then everyone was saying we should just build a pond. And then,
Fish.
yeah.
I happened to be at the high school today, and Mrs. Anazuski was there, and so she showed me the garden, and all of the plants that you guys planted and chose, they all bloom this time of the year. So every graduation, they'll be blooming. So I thought that was really special.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're also from our prom as well, too, so we have some, so it's kind of memorable because we got to have our prom on the side, or our spring fling. But yeah, so it's really cool.
That's awesome. Thank you. All right. I didn't forget anybody else today. All right, so without objection, I can declare this meeting adjourned at 7:51. Thank you, everybody.